there. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well. And yeah, we are getting right on into Bravo's reality phenom. I don't know if it still is one. It had been for quite some time. But we're talking housewives, and in particular, alum housewives, possibly switching franchises. Who knows? We'll have to get into it a little bit and see. Now, as you know, here we see the great Miss Mia Thornton, who has ceremoniously let us all know, I think about a month ago now or so, that she is no longer returning to RHOP, at least for the next season, I guess, at this point. Now, we all know that famously, if you're watching the show or been watching the franchise for quite some time here, Mia has been on RHOP, I think, for like 4 or 5 seasons. And right now she is going through the unfortunate circumstances of a divorce with her husband, Gordon, who also was on the show quite a bit. And so he's pretty well known to all of us who watch the show. And at the same time, for the last couple of seasons, this has been a bit rough for Mia. She's had to come to terms with a lot of things going on in her life, and definitely had to been, behind that firing squad of questions and inquiries into some of the ways that she's making moves in her relationship and in her family structure. And it did seem to be like it got a little bit hot for the kitchen for her, and it seemed to be maybe a nice opportunity to take a break. Now, as we last knew, Mia Thornton was actually in a committed relationship, obviously still legally married to Gordon, but had moved on to a relationship with a previous love, which was Ink. And Ink, I believe, was actually basically, in Atlanta area. And we know Mia Thornton is, was in the Potomac area. So I've done a few videos on the platform, to kind of get into a little bit about what's going on in details. I've also recapped and reviewed the Potomac franchise at least once or twice, I think. So there are definitely some videos on the platform here if you want to get a little bit more information and details about some things that were going on at that time when it came to Mia's love life. But as it stood at the end of this last season, it appeared that Mia had let all of us know that her and Ink had broken up. Now, we were to believe that her and Ink were probably, that was in game. They had been together before. They had been friends for many years. Matter of fact, I believe they went to high school together, and they've been pretty tight all along. And when things started to crumble with Gordon, it seemed that Mia kind of went ahead and wanted that old thing back again. And so she was kind of circling that block and landed herself back with Ink. And then it looks like there was obviously some complications, which you would expect that to be the case, right? I mean, considering you are in a already situation trying to get out of a marriage and then still trying to have a budding new relationship with this guy here, let alone it being a new person, it's someone you've already been with. So there's a lot of complications involvement there. Now, a lot of us did not really agree with how Mia was moving in these streets, but hey, to each his own. She's doing what she thinks is best for her and her family situation. Well, we got to see a lot of heartbreaking moments between her and Gordon on the show because, again, when they came on the show together, they seemed to be happily, blissfully in love and in marriage. But as we know, a lot of times things are not always what they seem. And it seemed pretty quickly within the 2nd or 3rd season of their time on the show, things started to unravel on the professionals aspect for them. And then it started to move into the personal. And then we did see the demise of Gordon and Mia's marriage, as well as Gordon sharing about his bipolar mental health situation. So that was also a very heartwarming conversation that he has had multiple times, and very, vulnerable in sharing those struggles that he was dealing with. And Mia shared some of her struggles as being a spouse of someone in that situation and how that was affecting her family situation as well. Now, it does seem to be that there's still a lot of great love between Mia and Gordon, and of course they have their children that they'll continue to co-parent and raise in love. And just things got a little bit sticky, obviously, with the new entity of Ink coming into Mia's life, and Gordon appearing at some points to be okay with it, and at other points naturally not having a great time of seeing his wife still running around with somebody else, because Gordon did share that he feels that if things were not the way they were for him, dealing with his struggle and also probably with the professional side, he does believe that if he was able to get that under control, that maybe his marriage would not be over. So that was really disheartening to hear. Of course, a lot of regret that was said in that. And there's been a lot of back and forth as well as to who is really telling more of the truth about the situation, being more accurate about the situation. But one thing, it seemed to be sure that Mia was ready to move on. And so she did that with Ink. Now, of course, like I said, last season, which ended, I don't know, a few months ago now, she had shared, pretty much to everyone that her and Ink had decided to go their separate ways. But a lot of people felt like that probably wasn't really truthful. Matter of fact, Giselle on the reunion kind of pointed out that they don't believe that her and Ink actually had separated. In fact, maybe just doing it for the storyline. So at that point, Mia kept saying profusely that no, she was absolutely not in the relationship, and she denied that accusation. And then I believe she ended up stomping and leaving off of the reunion earlier than the end of conclusion, and did not come back. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think that she came back. I don't remember her doing that. And then the next thing we hear, some weeks later, she's left the franchise. But what is interesting is that she apparently then sent another post out for everybody to see that she looked like she was starting to move on with her life in Atlanta, which is also something that Giselle at the reunion had shared. But I'm sure Mia felt that, look, she wasn't ready to reveal all of that to everyone. But she is not revealing it now, and it appears that she is now in Atlanta, which some of us would probably surmise that she's probably back with Ink, because it would seem to be quite interesting for her to be back here when he, lives here. I don't know if that's so much of a coincidence or not. But that being said, of course, we know that Atlanta has a franchise with the Real Housewives, Rhoa. And, that has been with the mixed bag. Really, this has been quite a hellish series or season for the show. Quite frankly, we've lost one of the veterans, Kenya, through a really just unnecessary situation that occurred with one of the newbies, Britt. There's a lot of individuals who have a lot of big feelings about this situation here. A lot of people do want Kenya to come back to the franchise. A lot of people feel that she was not giving a fair hand and fair shake in the situation. Some things have come up since the situation that was aired, and even Kenya has her own YouTube channel, and she's also shared about it, her thoughts and her take about what took place, and giving more details from her perspective. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check that out, you might want to do so. And then of course, Britt has been able to share her thoughts and continuously on the franchise. Now, a lot of individuals are pretty tired of hearing that take. People do have, again, a mixed bag on how they feel about what took place. And in some, saying, look, we do think that Kenya maybe went too far. However, it wasn't a provoked situation, but yet still keep her accountable for what she did do, because it did go too far. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Kenya said it went too far as well. She acknowledged that, because, it did. And then, of course, some who don't feel Britt is a victim in the situation either. So, it's a mixed bag. I definitely would like to know your thoughts if you are watching the season, and you have, thoughts about that. Go ahead and leave those respectfully in the comment section. I'd definitely like to know your take. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at on there. Now, for some individuals who are a little bit disappointed with Rhoa this season, we expected a lot of bang bang. We had Portia coming back as a regular peach holder. We had Cynthia coming back as a friend who I personally think should be a peach holder. And then it was also shared with us that Phaedra was leaving Married to Medicine and coming back to Roll Stomping Grounds of Rhoa. I'm assuming as a friend, not necessarily a peach holder, maybe with how things would run in its course in the season, would then depict whether she'd come back as a full-time housewife next season. However, we are really knee deep into the season. I don't think we have that many episodes left, and Phaedra has not made her entrance yet. However, we are seeing an uptake of trailers and, just seeing her a little bit more. And now also seeing a little bit of the trailers for the show's upcoming with her entering it. So I think it's a possibility that this coming up Sunday, because this is being recorded on the 7th of May. So this coming up Sunday, which would be Mother's Day, actually, I think that may be where Phaedra might enter into the chat. So we'll have to see for that. And from what I understand, it's only going to be a few episodes from that point on that she will be here. And then we're going to be, kind of rolling right into the reunion unless something else changes. So, yeah, I definitely would love to know your thoughts on just some of those things that I just shared right there. And so, that being said, is it possible that there could be some shaking and moving around of the cast as the housewives tend to do? So we're no stranger to seeing, cast shakeups happening every now and again. Sometimes chemistry isn't working, and sometimes just people decide to move on and do different things, as such, like Mia has now apparently did, which leaves a slot open in RHOP. And it'll be interesting to see who they fill that with. Now, that being said, with Mia being a, veteran at this point with the franchise, is it possible that she could actually pick up a peach in the Atlanta and kind of step on in there? Personally, me, I think she could. So, we'll have to see if that's something that she is interested in doing. I guess we'll find out maybe a little bit more details in this sharing, which we are now about to get into. So let's go ahead and do just that. All right. So this sharing is actually coming from Reality T. And it says, RHOP alum Mia Thornton makes a big statement about potentially joining RHOA. Now, they say that closed mouths don't get fed, which is why Mia Thornton's mouth is wide open after her move to Atlanta. She confirmed that she would not be returning to the Real Housewives of Potomac for season 10 because she no longer lives in the area. Now, she has her sights set on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Okay, now. And she's making it extra clear that she's waiting for the call. Well, I can already say I'm here for it. Now, could Mia Thornton join RHOA after leaving RHOP? Of course she could, right? We've seen it before. So let's go ahead and continue. Now, when Mia confirmed her move to Atlanta, fans immediately started asking if she had plans to pick up the peach. Those questions intensified last week when she was spotted hanging out with the Rhoa season 16 cast. Mia recently appeared on Dish Nation, a show that used to be hosted by Rhoa alums Portia Williams and Eva Marcel. Now, to talk about her RHOP exit. Now, when asked about making the jump to RHOA, she quickly expressed her interest. It's a very juicy peach to have, Mia teased. Now, the RHOP star continued, I am going to say yes or no. I'm not going to say yes or no, rather. I'm going to the table to eat wherever there's food. If there are nice fuzzy peaches, then I'll grab one. I'm not saying no. Now, according to Mia, she's been hearing a lot of feedback from RHOP fans, hoping to see her on Rhoa season 17. She said she would 1,000% sign on if the opportunity presented itself. I think I owe it to my fans, Mia added. Now, in case anyone from Bravo was watching that interview, Mia made sure to mention that she has an organic connection to the Rhoa cast. That includes veteran cast members like Phaedra Parks and Cynthia Bailey. The only person that I don't know is Angela Oakley, and I can't wait to meet her. They're all so amazing, so there's a lot of synergy there, said Mia. Now, for now, we've got to focus on getting through season 16 of Rhoa. Bravo had just dropped the mid-season trailer, and there's plenty of drama set to unfold before anyone starts thinking about season 17. Regardless, Mia is probably sitting by her phone right now, anxiously awaiting a phone call from Bravo. Now, Real Housewives of Atlanta, as we all know, if you're watching, airs on Sundays, and if you're not, letting you know it airs on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Check your local listings. It does air on Bravo, of course, we know, and you can stream Real Housewives of Potomac on Peacock and Hayu in the UK and Ireland. Okay, so I have a question for you, as the sharing did as well, and I'd love to know, so definitely throw those down in the comment section. Would you think that Mia would be entertaining on the Real Housewives of Atlanta? So do you think she'd be a good time, right? Or do you think there's a chance she'll return to our screens in any capacity at this point? And I personally think that, yes. I mean, look, I think Mia is made for a Real Housewives. I just do. You can love her or dislike her at times. Sometimes she's kind of like made you want to pull your hair out a little bit. There was a bit of a time where she had a little bit of an issue with the relationship with the truth. And, she's may have come out of it. I think a lot of that was basically she was trying to keep things under wrap about what was going on in her personal life, potentially, and not wanting to have that aired until she felt ready and deemed to do so. So it's going to be interesting to see if she actually will take up the peach and do the do. I personally think she could come straight on as a peach, not even going to the front row, just like Cynthia. I think that Cynthia is only doing the front row to kind of test the waters out to see if that will work for her, not for us, but for her, because I personally would love to see Cynthia back on her strings on a permanent basis. I just love Cynthia. I think she is the voice of reason, and I've always said that, and I was really disappointed when she had left, but understood why she left at the time. And of course, things have changed so much for her in her life. And matter of fact, I'll be doing a future video on one big change for her. And yeah, so I'm just so glad to be seeing her, and I want to definitely see more of her. And I really am interested in seeing Mia come on Rhoa and shaking things up with the ladies. I would love to see where the alliances hold, how she will be. Is it going to be much more of the same Mia that we know from RHOP, or there's going to be a shift or change? Are we going to see more realism? Are we going to see more truth, as some people would like to know? Is her friend that was her really good friend back in RHOP, is she going to be, tagging along, which is Jacqueline? Is she going to be part of the franchise? I know she's pregnant and she's probably since given birth. So wishing her the best with that. But is she going to, come back and do a move to Atlanta as well? Or was she already in Atlanta and just doing trips in RHOP? Who knows, right? But it is also nice to know that for Mia, like she says, she knows all the ladies basically, except for Angela, but she's looking forward to me. And so I think that's also good, because synergy is really helpful on these shows. Very often there's been a lot of complaints in regards to having, a bunch of ladies just kind of thrown together to see what would happen and if it would work. And we've been disappointed at every turn. We do tend to appreciate a situation in which at least the majority of the ladies already know each other and have some form of a relationship that's actually a workable relationship, or at least if it's got a little bit of this and that back and forth, there's some realism attached to that. That's what gets us into the storylines. It seemed to be less contrite and more truthful, more transparent, to as transparent as you could be on a reality TV show. But it nevertheless much more fun. I mean, I know that a lot of the things as far as the Real Housewives is concerned, they do like to have their drama, but we don't like to see the petty arguing every single episode. At some point, people need to come together, kind of regroup and reset before we start falling into the next situation. I think sometimes when you come into a place where you're constantly fighting and nitpicking about the dumbest of things, the storylines become very boring, dry, not even realistic. It's clear that you're hiding something else and we're not interested. And then therefore the numbers drop all the way down to the floor. And then we're wondering if there's going to be a new season. Now, personally, I think some people are feeling that Rhoa has kind of hit its skids at this point. It could use a rest like, New Jersey is doing at this time. I personally feel like Rhoa could continue to roll on. At the end of the day, I didn't expect, miracles with the situation, especially when Kenya departed. But I think that if they can kind of just keep it going at the tether that it is, be real realistic and transparent and open at the reunions, and then maybe throw Mia in the mix for next season, I think that they will have a winning formula going on. So I'm willing to kind of wait it out, because I am a fan of the franchise, have been for many years. Atlanta, by the way, was my number one for the entire time of my entrance into watching the franchise. And it's kind of remained that number one spot, even with all of the trials and tribulations. So I'm just a diehard, right, when it comes to that. And RHOP is my number two. So we'll have to see how this all shakes up. I think RHOP will probably be fine as well. They tend to do, pretty good at finding new ladies to kind of fit the bills for those who leave. I wonder if Candace may end up coming back and picking up the mantle for her, situation. Who knows, or we'll just see a couple new ladies all together. So with that being said, I think that'll about do it for this video. I most certainly would love to know your thoughts. Do you think that Mia is going to make that leap to Rhoa? Quite frankly, as the sharing seems to, suggest, she seems excited and ready and willing to go. Wherever the food is, she's there, right? So at the end of the day, I think that it's a no-brainer. I think that she will be getting that call, and I'm just here for it. So I'm going to put that into the ether at this point, but I definitely would love to know your thoughts. So definitely leave those down below if you are watching, and if you would be interested in seeing that crossover. And yeah, I think that'll about do it for this video, as I shared, and I'm going to bid you adieu. Now, I will be dropping another video here on the platform, so make sure you have your all notification bells on so you don't miss that, because I definitely want to know your thoughts on that video as much as I want to know your thoughts on this one. And also, if you haven't already seen, I did drop a video earlier as well. So definitely go and check it out. I want to know what your thoughts and what you're thinking about that video. It's about Tamar Braxton and her new beginning, and that I am very excited for. And I definitely want to know what you're thinking on that front after watching that video. So with that, I will bid you adieu. You take care, be safe. I will see you in the next one. Bye.